Welcome to another movie review. So this movie review is going to actually be a little bit more short. This movie is pretty straightforward. There's really nothing to dive deep into this film. It's a good movie. It's fun. Ant-Man and the Wasp. What can you expect? You know, this film stars Paul Rudd as Scott Lang and Michael Douglas as Hank Pym, Evangeline Lilly as the Wasp, and it takes place after Captain America Civil War, but before the events of Avengers Infinity War. Paul Rudd on house arrest after the events of Civil War as he tries to basically get off probation until he's called back into action to help Hope and Hank find Janet Van Dyne. Look, this film is good. It's fun. That's pretty much what you expect from a Marvel movie. I actually saw this film twice, and this Marvel movie was pretty good. There's going to be no spoilers here. I'm not going to get too much into the plot. But what I liked about this film is the performances and the chemistry. I felt that the performance and the chemistry between all these characters was really sufficient and really effective. I liked the way other characters played off of each other. I liked the recurring gags between some of the films and some of the characters and between both films. Scott's lackeys, or Scott's the three wombats as they're called, are back, and they're really good, especially Michael Pena. He always steals the show. The humor is really effective in some scenes. Not every scene. I don't think every joke lands, but most of them do. I liked it a lot more the second time I saw it, and I felt that the jokes worked better, and the pacing was actually better the second time I saw it. The first time I saw it, the pacing was a little bit slow in the beginning, and it kind of dragged at some parts. Don't expect an Infinity War masterpiece. I feel like we're all spoiled with Marvel because we've had masterpiece after masterpiece. So when a film comes along that's not really trying to be a masterpiece, it's just trying to be like a fun little romp, people might view it a little bit negatively compared to the other films that have come out recently. I don't think that's very fair. I think this film was fun, and it set out to be exactly what it wanted to be, which was like a fun, not heist movie, because the first one was more of a heist film, but just a fun action film. The special effects are amazing. The way things shrink and grow throughout the fight scenes is amazing. The fight choreography is really good. They're really creative in the way that they shrink and grow random objects and shrink and grow themselves. Like the scene in the kitchen is really fantastic. One minor complaint I also have, and I think this goes back to the pacing was a little off and kind of dragged a little bit, was there really wasn't any action in this film until the climax. Really, until the third act is when the action started to start. All the other action didn't really happen. There was a small fight scene in the kitchen earlier on with the Wasp, but other than that, there really wasn't any other fights there. And again, that's kind of a minor nitpick. I'm not saying every movie needs to have like some crazy action like every 30 seconds, but there really wasn't any action until the third act or until the climax. But the action scene that does happen during the climax is actually really well done. Overall, I feel like some of the jokes could have been cut. I feel like some of the jokes didn't land. I feel like it could have been edited just a little more tight. I feel like the first Ant-Man was a lot more, it was more of a tighter film. You know, this film is kind of like, you know, there's a lot going on, but overall still a good film. Evangeline Lilly steals the show as the Wasp. She's great, and the way they work together is really great. Another really cool character is the villain, quote-unquote villain, Ghost. Ghost is a really cool character. I'm not going to spoil her motivation, but she does have a motivation. She's almost not really a villain. There's almost no villains in this movie, I guess, except one guy who is Walton Goggins. Walton Goggins, I guess, is the clear villain, but he's not the main villain. He's definitely more of a side character, and as much as I love Walton Goggins, I feel like his character was a bit unnecessary. I like films where a lot of stuff is going on, but I feel like his part in the film would have been cut out completely, and it wouldn't have really changed much. It's still cool seeing him in films. I love his charisma and I love his performance regardless of the small role he had. But the main villain, I guess, is Ghost, played by john-kamen, who is an amazing actress. She's up and coming. She was great in Ready Player One. She was also in Tomb Raider, actually. And I'm looking forward to seeing more from her. I would actually love to see a Thunderbolts film with her, because that would be awesome. For those of you who don't know, the Thunderbolts are basically like the Suicide Squad of the Marvel Universe. Another minor complaint I have, just a minor complaint, is that I feel like they sort of dumbed Scott Lang's character down a bit just in the movie. This is a nitpick, but they sort of dumbed his character down. I feel like he was obviously a master thief in the original, and he was a lot smarter than people gave him credit for. And this one, he's sort of like just kind of like a bumbling idiot. in some parts. I think he's a little more competent than this film gave him credit for. There's a whole misconception that, you know, when you have to write up one character, the other character has to be written down. Like they wrote Wasp up so much that they sort of degraded Ant-Man, and I feel like it should be more of a balancing act where they should both be lifted up the same way. But they're great partners. I love seeing more of them. And I mean, look, the Ant-Man and the Wasp have been Marvel staples since the beginning of the Avengers, since not the beginning of Marvel Comics, but very early on. I have a special place in my heart for Ant-Man because when I was in 6th grade, I brought an Ant-Man comic to school. It was actually the first appearance of Scott Lang. I brought that issue to school. The kids in the class started making fun of me for liking Ant-Man. They're like, who's Ant-Man? No one knows who Ant-Man is. Ant-Man's a dumb character. Ant-Man is stupid. Marvel's stupid. The same kids who said that are the first ones in line to go see Ant-Man and the Wasp. And that is hilarious irony, and I love it. And I love Scott Lang, and I love the Wasp. I love Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I can't wait to see more from him. The mid-credit scene, stay for, because it's awesome. It's a bit predictable because it's obvious what's going to happen, but it's still shocking, and I still loved it. It's really cool hearing the reactions in the theater. The first time I went to the theater, I didn't really hear any reactions. The second time, people were mind blown. They were like, what? It was awesome. The very, very end credit scene, the second end credit scene after the credits, don't stay for. It's in the trailer. It was kind of a waste of time, and I was kind of a little annoyed that I felt like my time was wasted. And I told you this is going to be a spoiler-free review, but I'm going to spoil the end credit scene. Now, don't click away. Don't click away, because you're going to thank me for this. Because time is valuable, and don't waste it sitting through these credits. So, the end credit scene is the ant playing the drums. That's it. It's like a 10-second clip of the ant playing the drums. Stay through the mid-credit scene and then leave, because I was a little annoyed that my 10 minutes of my time were wasted on that end credit scene. And I wish I knew going in that that was the end credit scene, so I wouldn't have to sit through all those credits in order to, see something like that. But if you're going to have a quote-unquote punchline end credit scene or like a pointless end credit scene, at least make it somewhat of an in-joke. Something like Spider-Man Homecoming's end credit scene. That was funny. Like, that poked fun at us for waiting. Like, and I thought that was funny. It made it worth it. This, I didn't feel it was worth it. So, overall, though, it's just a quick review because this is a quick movie. Short review, short movie, Tiny Heroes. Go see it. I give it an 8 out of 10 on the Nichter scale. Go see it. It's a fun movie. What can you say? It's not as good as the first one, and it's definitely not even in my top 10 Marvel films, but it's still a good movie. Go see it. Bye-bye.